In today's video, I wanted to share my birth story with baby number 3, Mr. Luca right here. So if you want to see that, then just keep watching. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and apologize. I know it's a little crooked. My tripod, like the thing that holds my camera, is a little messed up, so I'm going to have to get a new one, but it's like shifted. I'm so sorry if that bothers you, but we're just going to make it work for today. So if anyone's wondering, this wrap is from Tuck and Bundle. I'll leave it linked below if you are interested. I absolutely love this. We got it for our baby shower. It was on our registry. So again, I'll leave that link below if you're interested. It's super thin and comfortable. But yeah, he loves this thing. He sleeps so good in it. And it just helps me to have some free hands to get things done. But anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about my birth story. So I'm sure a lot of you saw the vlog, and if you haven't, I'll leave it at the end of this video and linked down below. But I just wanted to share with you the whole story because I didn't get everything on camera, which I know you guys understand, but I just wanted to document this for myself as well, just so I could remember everything that happened that special day. So anyway, so it started about 3 a.m. I started having contractions, but they're really mild, so I just tried to sleep through them, and I slept through them for about an hour. I still woke up throughout that hour, but I just tried to stay in bed and just kind of sleep it off because I had been having some prodromal labor a few days before that, and I would start having contractions and then I'd take a shower and they would go away. So I kind of thought it might be that again, so I was just like, whatever, I'm just gonna sleep it off for a little bit, and if it continues, I'll get in the bath or the shower and see if they go away. So I laid there for about an hour, still having contractions every 10 or so minutes. As I was having the contractions, I was thinking, this seems more real than the others. Like it just seemed a little bit stronger, a little more consistent. Not completely consistent, but we'll get into that later. But I got up, and the other times I had taken a shower. And this time I was like, you know what, I'm still tired. I just want to relax in the tub. But I thought this might be the real thing. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and film it just in case this is the real thing, because my mom had come to visit and I had been doing all these things to naturally induce labor. I'll leave that video linked below and at the end of this video as well if you haven't seen that. And I'll probably just put it in a card up here if you want to check that out later. But I ran the bathtub and it just kept going. So I was like, I'm going to go ahead and call my midwife because I have technically been in labor for over an hour now. I don't know how long I had been having contractions before I woke up initially. So I called the midwife service and let them know that I thought I was in labor, and then I got in the tub. She told me to come or call her because I was delivering in Atlanta. I was trying to have an all-natural Vbac water birth in Atlanta, which is an hour. It's exactly 59 minutes from my house. But with traffic, Atlanta traffic, if you know, if you've been to Atlanta or live near Atlanta or in Atlanta, you know, traffic is always bad in Atlanta. It doesn't really matter what time of day it is. So you have to kind of take that into account. Some times are better than others. It really just depends on the day and what events are going on in that area. So, yeah, I was like, I just want to labor at home as long as I can. When you're having a VBAC, you want to avoid interventions, and the longer you can labor at home safely, the less likely you are to have interventions at the hospital and need another repeat C-section. So with that being said, this was my second VBAC, so I had an even higher chance of having a successful VBAC because I had already had one with my second child with Miss Reagan, if you have seen her in the vlogs. But anyway, I got in the tub and labored in the tub for about 2 hours, and I was timing contractions. I'll show you the app that I use. I haven't deleted it yet. My phone's about to die, of course. Let's see. It's this one, this contraction timer. And I had also downloaded this Christian Hypnobirthing app, which I highly recommend if you're Christian and you are trying to have an all-natural Hypnobirth or Vbac. I love this app. It is about $3, but it's totally worth it. You can download it towards like your third trimester and start listening to it. But I listened to that while I was in the tub, and I made a praise and worship playlist, and I praised God and worshiped God while I was in labor in the tub, and it was just really calming for me personally. I listen to praise and worship music all the time anyway, but it was just very calming for me, and it just really helped me to feel more in control of my labor and not alone, and like God was helping me through each contraction and was with me, and I wasn't as fearful, and it just gave me a lot of peace. And I highly recommend that app. And just listen to praise and worship music while you're in labor. I was praying, talking to God while I was in the tub, and just asking him to protect me and my baby through labor and delivery and after and all that. And it was a very birth for me, really every day for me. It's just a very spiritual experience, giving birth and carrying life inside you that you know the Lord put there, and this child was formed by God, and this is a child of God, and it's a very spiritual thing. I think birth is a very spiritual experience for most people. So, and I'll be honest, I did have some fear because there is some risk with VBAC. And being so far from the hospital, I was just, you hear about uterine rupture or delivering in the car, which was a possibility. All of that is a possibility. So I did have a little fear. So I was talking to God about my fears and asking to give me peace and comfort, and he did. And it all worked out. Praise God. And yes, I just sat in the tub, listened to my praise and worship music. I didn't let Wes know that I was having contractions and I was going to get in the tub and see if they went away, but I wanted to let him sleep in case this was real labor. Like, I knew he'd need rest. He's going to have to drive me to the hospital. He's going to have to help me through labor, and who knows how long I would be in labor. So I just let him sleep while I was in the tub. And then as my contractions got closer together, there was a point where they got to like 2.5 minutes apart, and I was like, oh my gosh, because they jumped from 6 minutes apart to 2 minutes apart. And I was like, the midwife told me to head to the hospital when they're about 5 minutes apart. So I was kind of freaking out because I was like, oh my gosh, I still have to get my bags in the car, get the kids up, get them ready, take them to our friend's house. My mom was there, luckily, so she did help me with that, but I still had to wake everybody up and get everything together and ready to go. And there was still a few things like I needed to throw in my bag, and at that moment I was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was so ready, but I'm clearly not. I didn't have everything together yet, and when they were 2.5 minutes apart and I'm an hour away from the hospital, it kind of frightened me because I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to deliver the baby in the car. So I got out of the tub, got dressed really quickly, woke up Wes and the kids and my mom, and everybody started rushing around getting everything ready. We called our friends who were keeping our kids while I delivered because I wanted my mom to come. Even though she was here, she could have kept the kids, and the kids could have came. I just didn't know how well Reagan would do, and it was really early in the morning, so I was like, let's just take them to our friend's house and we'll bring them up later, or go get them later and they can meet the baby. Or I didn't even know if I was in labor for sure. When you get to the hospital, they kind of check you and monitor you and tell you whether you get to stay or go back home. So we just took them to our friend's house for the time, or my mom did. I kissed them goodbye, and that was kind of hard for me because at the same time, like I said, I did have some fear with the VBAC and everything. Like, I wrote my kids a letter on my computer, and I wrote my husband a letter and let him know that I had some letters for them if anything did go wrong, because there is risk giving birth. At any time you give birth, there is some risk, and I wrote them a letter just in case something happened, and I told them goodbye. And that's scary, but I felt better knowing that they got a goodbye, a real goodbye from me, if something were to go wrong. And as I was kissing my kids goodbye and telling them goodbye, I'm like, oh my gosh, this could be, I know you probably think I'm dramatic, but this could be the last time I kiss my kids goodbye, I tell them goodbye. And that was just, it was really hard leaving and headed to the hospital knowing that, something could go wrong, especially having a VBAC. Even though the risk is low, it happens. One of my best friends had a uterine rupture and almost bled to death. So, I had that in the back of my mind, and I experienced that with her. So, I did have that fear, and I tried to push it back, and I prayed about it, and I pushed through the anxiety of it, but it was still there. And I'm sure if any of you are experiencing that or have experienced that, you know what I'm talking about. You just, you have that fear, and you have that in the back of your mind at all times that, something could go wrong. Even if you don't have a VBAC, a repeat C-section is not risk-free either. So there's that, and yeah, just pray and ask God to give you his peace, and I'm sure that he will. But yeah, I told the kids goodbye. We got in the car. When I got in the car, my contractions were still like 2.5 minutes apart. Continued timing my contractions, and they started getting farther and farther apart the farther we would get down the road. They went from 2.5 minutes apart to almost 15 minutes apart on the way to the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, of course. I get everything ready to go, and now I'm thinking I'm not in labor. I'm just like maybe in early labor or prodromal labor again or something. I'm like, now I feel bad. So I texted my midwife and let her know, and they still wanted me to come and like check everything out. So I was hungry, and Wes was hungry, so we stopped at Burger King, got some breakfast, and I was still having contractions as we were going through the drive-thru, but I never did have one in front of anybody in the drive-thru, like as he was ordering or getting the food, but I was having them like in between those steps of going through a drive-thru. And I'm like, you know what, this is a lesson. Like, you never know what somebody's going through. Like, those people working there had no idea I was in labor, but as soon as we got through the drive-thru, here I am having like a major contraction. It's like, you just never know what somebody's going through, even if they're like right in front of your face. Like, that was like a huge lesson for me. That's what I was thinking at the time, and I think I even told Wes that. And then we kept heading to the hospital. We were about 30 minutes away at that time, but traffic was really bad because it was like 7:45 in the morning, and that's like rush hour traffic going towards Atlanta at that time of day. So we did hit some traffic. It took a little bit longer to get to the hospital. Once we arrived, we parked my giant bus, and they did have valet parking at Atlanta Medical Center, so that was pretty neat. So Wes didn't have to just like drop me off at the door and figure out where to park. Didn't have to go in by myself. So we just did the valet parking, and we got to park like right out front of the hospital. And we went in, and I was having contractions all the way, to the, I think, 7th floor, where we had to go to labor and delivery. And I signed in, and they put me in triage. My midwife got there a few minutes later. She checked me. They put me on the monitors and all that. Brought me some fruit and a drink, and they checked me, and I was only 2 centimeters dilated and like 50% effaced or something. And I was so discouraged because I was like, oh my gosh, like I felt like, I had been at 2 centimeters for like a week at that point, and nothing was changing, even though I'd been in labor for several hours at that point, or so I thought. And they're like, okay, so we're just going to let you walk the halls for 2 hours, then we'll check you again and decide if we're going to admit you or not. So my mom dropped the girls off, and she headed to the hospital. Her and Wes walked with me for 2 hours around the labor and delivery unit. And as I was walking, there was a police officer coming to pick up an inmate who had just given birth, and they were taking her back to prison. And it just really broke my heart. I cannot imagine, especially being a foster mom, like I see and hear about things like this, but to be there witnessing them come in to get her, to take her back to prison, and her baby is either going to go to family member or foster care, and it's a newborn. Like, I cannot imagine the anguish that mother must have been feeling. Like, I know maybe she had made some mistakes, like we all do, and she's in that situation at that time, and I cannot imagine having to leave my newborn baby right after giving birth and then going back to prison. And she had a C-section from what I gathered, so just trying to like recover from a C-section in prison. Like, it just broke my heart. I don't know her name, and you know, it just broke my heart, and I prayed for her, and I'm asking you keep her in your prayers. I don't know her name or anything, but God knows who she is, and I just pray that you will, I just ask that you will pray for her and pray for her baby, and yeah, that's all we can really do, but it really broke my heart and made me so grateful for where I'm at in life. I've made mistakes too, and you know, at a certain point in my life when I was like 17 or 18, I could have very easily ended up in jail or prison with things that I was doing and mistakes that I was making, and I could have lost my child. You know, I had my first daughter, very young, and it really hit home. Like, we just need to keep each other in prayer, and it just made me very grateful for where I'm at in life, and grateful that I didn't have to be separated from my baby as soon as he was born. I cannot imagine. So just please keep her in your prayers, and keep the baby in your prayers as well. And I'm sure there's plenty of other mothers. We need to pray for all mothers in that situation and children in the situation they're in. I'm a foster mom, and I do believe in the power of prayer, and I do believe in reunification if at all possible. So just keep everyone in those kinds of situations in your prayer, especially if you know someone specifically. So anyway, back to my birth story. So we walked the halls for 2 hours, and my midwife came back and checked me, and I still was only 2 centimeters dilated. I was a little more effaced though, and the baby had dropped down a little, but I still wasn't really progressing like they wanted, and my contractions were kind of all over the place, like 5 minutes apart, 7 minutes apart, 3 minutes apart, 2 minutes apart, just kind of like all over the place. And it was like that the whole time I was in labor, really, until the end. So they were like, well, we know you live far away from the hospital, but we're not going to admit you right now. It doesn't look like you're progressing. It's probably just early labor. So you're welcome to get a hotel room, or go walk around the mall or the park, or just wherever, or go get something to eat, maybe stay in the area and come back later if things seem to be progressing or your water breaks. Or you're welcome to go home. It's an hour drive, I know, but you can go home and come back if things progress. So I was really discouraged, and just like, oh my gosh, I felt so bad that we drove all the way to the hospital. I woke my midwife up super early that morning having contractions, and it was just really discouraging. So we left the hospital. My mom went and got the girls. Wes and I were hungry, so we're like, we're just going to go get some lunch and see what happens. So we went to Lenox Mall, which was about 20 minutes away. It's a huge mall in Atlanta. I wanted to walk around in there, but my contractions were getting to a point where they were really painful, and I was like moaning pretty loudly through them, and I was like, I don't want to be walking through this really bougie mall. And I was in like this little dress, and I had like some Dollar Tree sandals on, and like I was not looking my best and not feeling my best, and I was like, I don't want to go in this bougie mall, like moaning loudly in labor and scaring people, and what if my water breaks in the middle of this bougie mall? So I was like, I don't really want to walk around in there, but I did want Cheesecake Factory, which was in that mall, so we got Cheesecake Factory to go. I got the egg roll sampler. If you've had that, oh my gosh, that's my favorite thing in Cheesecake Factory. Like, I could care less about the cheesecake, but their food is so delicious, and they have the biggest menu. So we got that to go. And then Wes wanted he didn't want Cheesecake Factory, so he wanted Five Guys, which was like really close to the hospital. So we went back that way, and I was gonna walk with him. Like, we parked on the side of the street, and it was like a 5-minute walk to Five Guys because we couldn't park our bus like right at Five Guys. So we found parking, he paid for that, and I got out of the car to walk with him to Five Guys, and I had like a big contraction, and I was trying not to be loud, but I was like, I know if I keep going, I'm gonna be loud, and it was hurting really bad, and I was having to like stop. Like, I couldn't even walk through the contraction. I had to like stop and have the contraction and then keep going. So, and there was a lot of people on the sidewalk, and I was like, I can't do this in front of all these people. Like, it was just kind of embarrassing. So like, I'm just gonna sit in the car and wait for you and I got in the back of my bus and labored in the back of my bus. I texted my friend Melissa and told her what was going on. And yeah, it was just really stressful because I'm like, here I am in labor in the back of my bus in the middle of Atlanta. Like, I'm probably gonna end up having this baby in the car or something. Like, I didn't know what to do. So I just waited for Wes. And as I waited, they started to get really, really painful. And I'm like, there's no way we're going home. And at one point, I even told him, I was like, let's just go home. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go walk. There's some pretty bad neighborhoods in Atlanta, and it's just kind of sketchy, and I didn't know where to go, and I didn't want to, like, be in labor in front of a lot of people, like, moaning, and you know what I mean? Like, it was just not ideal. So, we went back, and when I told him that, he's like, we are not going home. It's an hour drive home and an hour drive back. And do you really think in 2 hours you're going to be feeling any better? Like, and I'm so glad he was my voice of reason, because if we had went home, I would have had this baby in the car or at home in my bus or at home. And with a VBAC, I just felt way more comfortable being in the hospital. So we decided to go back to the doctor's office, like my midwife's office, which is right beside the hospital, and we parked where we typically park when I go to an appointment. We can't park in the parking garage because I do have a Nissan NV like bus or van, and we park in this corrections parking lot because it's open air parking and it's free, and it's right behind the hospital and the midwife's office. So we parked there. I labored in the bus a little longer, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna get out and walk. And it was super hot. It's July 2nd, super hot day in Atlanta. Luckily it wasn't raining or anything, but I got out and I just walked around that corrections parking lot, and you know, the contractions just got stronger and stronger. And I went and told Wes, I was like, let's just go walk around the block where, because like the hospital has like a sidewalk all the way around that block in Atlanta. This is like downtown Atlanta, you guys. So I was like, let's walk around there and maybe just go ahead and go back into the hospital because these contractions are getting really strong. So I went to the bathroom in the building where my midwife's office was. Went to the bathroom there, and I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm gonna have this baby. Like, as I was using the bathroom, I had a contraction. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's gonna come out in the toilet. Like, I've got to hurry up and get to the hospital. So I hurried up and, you know, cleaned up and washed my hands and met Wes outside, and we walked around the block. And as I was walking, I kept having contractions that were like 3 minutes apart, and I would have to stop. And I know people driving by and on the sidewalk had to know I was in labor because I was just like stopping and like moaning through and breathing through the contractions. And then we finally made our way around to the front of the hospital again, and I started crying because I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't want to go back in here, get another hospital bill for them to just tell me like nothing's changed and you just need to go home. And I was getting really hot and really tired and really anxious because I didn't know what to do. And I felt silly because I felt like I didn't know my body enough to know for sure if I was really in labor. You know, it really had me questioning because I went in convinced I was in labor and they sent me home. So we're like, Wes was like, it's gotta change. You're hurting a lot more. You're feeling like you're gonna have the baby on the sidewalk. So let's just go ahead and go in and see what they say. It'll be okay. Even if they send us home, it'll be all right. So we went in. They admitted me. After they checked me, I was 4 centimeters, which that's what they told me they would admit me at the first time I came in. They're like, once you're at 4 centimeters and having consistent contractions, we'll admit you. So at that point, I was 4 centimeters dilated, 60% effaced, I think. And the baby was at like 0 station, I believe. Or I can't remember. It was like -3 or 0. I can't remember which one's lower. But he had dropped a lot lower than the first time I had come in. And I was way more effaced and I was a little more dilated. So they went ahead and admitted me. Took me from triage to a labor and delivery room. Wes went down and got the bags out of the car once we got in the room, and the nurses hooked me up with an IV, and they asked me if I wanted, like, what my plans were for pain management, and I told them, you know, I gave them my paper for the water birth so they could get the tub ready, and then they wanted to give me pain medicine, because I was clearly I was in a lot of pain through the contractions, and she's like, you know, you can still get in the tub if you get pain medicine, it's okay. Obviously you can't get in the tub if you get an epidural, but you can still get pain medicine. So I was like, okay, I'll go ahead and get the pain medicine. What she didn't tell me was I had to wait like 3 hours for the pain medicine to fully wear off before I could get in the tub. So that's where things got tricky. So I got the pain medicine. I was feeling much better. I kind of napped through the contractions, but I was still having breakthrough pain. And I was waking up during the contractions, but I was still getting a little rest through the contractions for about an hour. Sorry guys, I had to zoom in because little Mr. Luca woke up and wanted to nurse. But I did get some pain medicine. It started with an N. I can't remember the name of it. I'd never heard of it or had it before, but it did help some. But I've regretted getting it because of what happened later. So once the pain medicine had worn off, or what I thought had worn off, or it felt like, you know, it wasn't helping anymore, the contractions started to get really strong again, and I kept feeling like I needed to push with each contraction, but I was holding back because nobody had told me it was time to push, so I was like holding back with each contraction, like trying so hard not to push, but I felt like I needed to, which I wasn't sure exactly what that felt like, because with Reagan I had gotten an epidural with my second baby, and I never felt the need to push with her because I had gotten the epidural and I couldn't feel that. So I wasn't exactly sure what that felt like, but I knew I was getting close to needing to push, and I felt like I was holding back from pushing at that point. And I told my midwife that, and she said, no, I just checked you, and, you know, which she checked me an hour earlier, so things could have changed in that hour, but she's like, no, you're not ready to push yet. We can tell by the baby's heart rate on the monitor if it's time to push, and, you know, she didn't think it was time to push. So she was like, so don't try to push because you can, like, tear your cervix if you push when you're not ready, which is true. So I was like, through the contractions though, I was just like, but I feel like I need to push, and it was so hard not to push. So at that point I kind of felt like I needed to pee, and I was like, maybe I should just go to the bathroom, kill some time, because I do feel like I need to pee. So I told my midwife I needed to go to the bathroom, so she helped me to the bathroom and hooked me from the monitor, which you're supposed to stay on the monitor when you're having a Vbac. A lot of you know that, I'm sure. And they were going to put me on a waterproof monitor before I got in the tub anyway. And I was just going to pee, so we thought, so I didn't need to be on the monitor. But when you're having a VBAC, they really like to keep you on the monitor the whole time because of the risk, and they can tell by the baby's heart rate if it's in distress and all that, and if there's something wrong. So that's how they know if you're like having a uterine rupture or something else. So she took me off the monitor to get to the bathroom, and I sat on the toilet, and then I felt like I needed to, like, I couldn't pee, but then all of a sudden I felt like I needed to poo real bad. So I was like, well, I'm just gonna like try to poo. So I will try to go poo, and I couldn't poo at that time. So I was like, then I had another contraction because they were like 2 minutes apart at that point. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get through this contraction, try to go poo, and then go back to the bed. And during that contraction, I did go poo. And then as soon as I started to poo, I guess with that, when you're pooing, you're also pushing those muscles. So as soon as I started to go, so embarrassing, baby dropped. Like, I felt his head drop down into the birth canal, and I was like, oh my gosh, baby's coming. And the midwife's like, what? And Wes is like, what? And he came in the bathroom, and I was like, he's coming, he's coming. And then at that point, all my nurses came in, because that was just me and Wes and the midwife at that point. All my nurses came in, and they're like, what's going on? We need to get you to the bed, because I was like, he's coming. And they're like, we need to get you back to the bed. And then they're like, no, you can go ahead and get in the tub. And right before that, they had told me I couldn't get in the tub. Sorry. So right before that, the nurse, before she left the room earlier, she told me I couldn't get in the tub when I was feeling, because I asked when I was feeling like I need to push, I was like, can I go ahead and get in the tub and just labor in the tub? And they're like, no, because it hasn't been that certain amount of time for the medication to wear off. Even though it had worn off, they still had to wait that certain amount of time because it is a liability if you like pass out in the birthing tub or something like that, I think is what they said. So I couldn't get in the tub for another like 45 minutes. So as I was on the toilet, they came in and they're like, okay, you can go ahead and get in the tub, which was frustrating to me because it hadn't been 45 minutes. And I was like, if you would have told me that before I went to the bathroom, I could have had this baby in the tub. But it was too late. Like, I couldn't. Oh my gosh, he just pooped on me. I'm so sorry. And Reagan's in my bathroom right here, so you'll probably hear her flush in a second. Oh my goodness. But I was just like, he's coming, and then all of a sudden, like, his whole body dropped down, and I was just like yelling at it because I just wasn't ready. I'd never felt that before. You know, the pain medicine had worn off at that point, and I was just like, ah! And I wasn't like screaming, but I was like, it was like a deep yell, and I was just like, ah, you know, like, he's coming. And I couldn't move because I felt like I was going to crush his head, so I just leaned back on the toilet and grabbed the little rail like this and just held on for dear life. And then I started to crown, and I was like, somebody catch him, because I could not move to catch him myself. Even though I wanted to, I literally could not move because I was in a lot of pain, and I just felt like I couldn't move, and it was just like an out-of-body experience for real. It was incredible, and I'm so glad I experienced all-natural childbirth, but at the same time, it was painful, especially that ring of fire. Once his head started to crown, I was just like I couldn't even hardly breathe. Like, I couldn't take a deep breath because it burned so bad. And she was like, the midwife was like, blow the candle out. And that did help me through that. And I was just like, I had to get control of my breath again. And I was just like, and finally his head came out. It didn't take that long, but when you're experiencing the ring of fire, it feels like an eternity. Like, oh my gosh, it burns. So his head came out, and then she was like, okay, you're going to have to push to get his shoulders out. So I pushed one time, and his shoulders came out, and the rest of his body just slid right out, and she caught him. Praise the Lord. He didn't go in the potty, but he was delivered on the toilet. When I was looking at this beautiful birthing tub right in front of me, full, clean, ready to go. So even though you might have this elaborate, beautiful birth plan and this beautiful birth plan, it does not always go like that. But I'm grateful I got my second Vbac. Turn it down, please. I'm grateful he didn't go in the potty. And I'm grateful I didn't have a uterine rupture or any other complications. And, you know, it could have been worse. I could have delivered him in the back of my bus in the middle of Atlanta or at home with no medical help. So I'm grateful that everything went the way that it did. I do feel like I'm grieving and mourning the loss of this beautiful water birth that I have wanted so bad. And this is my last baby, so I will not be having a water birth more than likely in the future either. But that's okay. And I was really sad that I didn't get the birth on video, because I really wanted it on video, because I didn't get that with the girls, and didn't get that with him either. But that's alright. You know, I did get everything else in the vlog. If you saw that, I'll link it below. But I was disappointed. But at the same time, I'm glad that me pooing and delivering on the toilet, maybe what? I'm glad that
You pooing?
Yeah. That I didn't get that on video. So it is what it is. That's life. I'm grateful that everything still went really well, and baby boy was healthy, and he didn't go in the potty, because that could have happened if I hadn't said, he's coming, catch him, somebody please. So anyway, that is the birth story. He was born at like 5'17", I think, and he weighed 6 pounds 15 ounces, 19 inches long. Beautiful, sweet baby boy. And yeah, I was just, and as soon as he came out, like, I felt great. Now, I did have to deliver the placenta, so what I did to deliver that, because I was like, how do I deliver that? She's like, okay. I held him and calmed him, And then we did do the delayed cord clamping. So I sat on the toilet and waited for the cord to stop pulsing while I held him and talked to him and looked at him. And Wes took a video and some pictures, and then we cut the cord once it stopped pulsing, or Wes cut the cord. I didn't get that on video or a picture either, but oh well. So we did that, and then they took him in the room that I was in and did all the checks and stuff for him. And the midwife told me, she was like, okay, we need to deliver the placenta now. And I was like, okay, what do I do? And she was like, just stand up and we'll let gravity help us out. So I stood up off the toilet and it just kind of slid out. Like I pushed a little and it just kind of came out. And she checked the placenta to make sure it was intact. She showed me after she checked it that everything was intact and everything came out, because if any is left inside you, that can be dangerous. Mama. So I'm glad that she let me know and let me look at it and see.
What happened?
Battery died. So that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I thank you all so much for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, it would mean so much to me if you would hit that subscribe button and join us here on this channel. I post all kinds of content, mostly mommy content, lifestyle, vlogs, reviews, anything that we find interesting, anywhere we go that I feel like is fun enough to vlog. I love to do travel vlogs as well when we get to go places, and homeschool videos, and just whatever we're up to, I share that here, and I would love it if you would stick around for more. And yeah, if not, that's okay if it's not your cup of tea, but if it is, please hit that subscribe button, please hit that like button, share my videos. It helps me out so much to continue doing this. And yeah, I thank you all so much. Baby boy is fussing and it's time for me to make lunch, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But thanks again for watching. I love you all, and Jesus loves you too. God bless you. Bye.